Good morning, friends. I am here with my good friend Hogne and I hope I pronounce his name right. Today we're gonna talk a little bit about pornography and the topic of healthy sexuality. But at first, I would suggest, Hogne, why don't you say something about who you are and what you do?
Of course. Where to start? My day job is as a paramedic, so I get to see all sorts of crazy stuff. So my big passion is helping people and working with people in different kinds of way. So I have that job and also work as a coach where I focus on sexuality. So I'm a bit of a sex coach, and that's a lot of fun. My journey with this started, how many years already now? 7 years ago, when I started exploring personal development. But it wasn't before until 2011 when I went through this. I had a very, very difficult relationship, and there was so much that didn't work in that relationship, and sex was one of those things. And I remember at the time that I was feeling a lot of shame because it didn't work, and I was getting so confused and so frustrated because nothing worked, and that was a really big blow to my confidence at that point. I remember even my girlfriend at the time, she was, I remember one episode, now I think it's funny, but at that point it was really took the wind out of me. And we were having sex, and we were doing doggy style, and I came too soon, and she got really furious. She got really mad, and I was, oh fuck, that felt awful at the time, and I didn't feel like a man when I can't fuck my girlfriend as I want to. And when that relationship had its timely demise, I pretty much experienced the death and rebirth of who I am. And that's when my personal development journey kind of shifted from exactly personal development to a more of a spiritual path where I want to discover everything about my shames, my insecurities, and sex was a very big part of my insecurities at that time. So that's why I started exploring Tantra and yoga. And I've done yoga teacher training, I've done tantric massage training, and all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's been an incredible journey. But what I'm mostly focused now is on Taoism. And Taoism and Tantra is pretty much the same language for the same thing. But some of these things you just connect more with in the way they talk and the way they speak, and it's easier for you to understand and grasp. And that's what I'm pursuing now, and that's what I'm using with my clients too. So that's kind of one of the big foundations of my work at the moment.
Yeah, that's a lot. Absolutely. Yeah, and we wanted to start out with pornography, because I noticed a lot of guys are somehow kind of addicted even to pornography. But can you speak to that?
Well, I've even felt myself that I've been addicted to pornography, and the truth is that it has nothing to do with pornography at all, but it has to do with how we treat our sexuality and how we use that sexual energy that we have. And it gives us an opportunity to look deeper in what's going on behind the surface here. And what pornography is doing to you is it's programming you and training you to become passive to your own sexuality. So you're only getting your stimulation from what you're seeing and what you're feeling in your cock. And that's that's nothing. You're getting so little of the entire picture of sex that it excludes everything, and you're getting this fast food feminine energy that never gives you something that lasts. And one of my big insights that when I had my struggle with pornography was that I was just numbing myself, because I was afraid of getting hurt again, like I did in that relationship that I mentioned earlier. And it's coming back to us looking for something, and we have this illogic in our logic that we try to get to that through pornography. And when we start to see through that illogic, we can start to move past it, because it's not about pornography. It's about something new that wants to come out, and the pornography is just a way of this misunderstanding you have about yourself. It's just one way of that manifesting and telling you there's something for you to look at here. And if you're trying to use willpower and force yourself not to watch porn, that's not going to work, not in my experience. So it's more about becoming aware and going a bit deeper with yourself and realizing what's actually going on. And that takes more courage than using willpower to force yourself away from the computer or whatever you want to jerk off to.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What I heard you say is like we're afraid of our own sexuality.
Yeah.
And what I found when for myself and working or talking with the guys, it's like when we stop using pornography, there's some kind of feeling, some kind of energy, I don't know. And most of the guys are even afraid to feel this. And what seems to happen is like some guys get like really mood swings up and down.
Yeah.
Like one moment they're really down, the next moment they're really euphoric and glad and life's good.
Yeah.
And there are other guys who like really get aggressive.
Yeah.
And they're even to the point that their friends notice.
Yeah.
So can you speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. That's the key part. Most guys, we are running around with a flat battery all the time. It's simple as that. And the sexual energy is the most powerful energy we have by far. It's what you create life with. It's the most powerful creation that we have. And when you're used to running around with low energy, and then you suddenly start retaining your energy, something is going to happen, because your body is not used to having all that energy in your body. And that creates an imbalance. So your body is out of sync. It's not harmonious. And that happens when you're so conditioning to looking at what's out there and stimulating yourself down there, that you're creating a disconnection from your own sexual energy. You're disconnected from what's going on in your body, and you get disconnected from your partner. So it's your brain that's rewired to something that's out there instead of something going on in here. And when you start conserving your energy, you're going to experience more. For example, you're going to get more sensitive. You're going to get more easily aroused, and you're also going to experience full body orgasm. So that means that the body is charging itself up. And when we are so focused on what's going on down there, all the energy is going to be collected down there instead of moving up in the body. And the yoga and tantrics, they talk about it in chakras. And in Taoism, they often talk about the microcosmic orbit, that we have this electrical circuit in your body that to store the energy in your body, you have to circulate it. And if all the energy is congested in one area, you're going to have all these symptoms like being frustrated, being agitated. And I had so much of that, especially when I started with this. I was getting that sexual frustration after a couple of days. And if you start doing some cultivation of your own energy, even basic breathing is the most profound thing you can do for your own sexuality when you're having sex, and even when you're not having sex, because breath moves everything there is. It moves the energy, and your body already knows where to put it. So it's just pretty much of starting to cultivate your energy instead of wasting your energy. And that's kind of pretty much the essence of it. And I remember when I had these periods of, I think last year I was experimenting with no cultivation at all, just to see what the fuck is going to happen now. And after 2 weeks, I was getting, it was so strange. If I saw a woman, I was getting, I was like a sexual predator. And my sexual energy was so fucked up. It was so intense, and even my penis was so sensitive I could barely do anything because everything was down there, and you get so out of balance, and it's not even fun, because when it's that way, you have no control. You have no control at all about of your own sexuality. So there's the point with all this is to take control of your sexuality again.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And yeah, now for the practical part, how do I take control of my own sexuality?
Well, the best guide that I generally recommend to guys is just getting the Multiorgasmic Man book by Mantak Chia. That's a good one. There are other options too, but that's very simple and gives you a good foundation and understanding what this is. And just to give you the very, very simple of it, that's pretty much the core of everything, is that it comes back to breath again. And this you can also explain in medicine, that when you're stressed, your breath gets shallower and you get more tension in your body. So that affects your nervous system. And the same happens when you're having sex. The closer you get to an ejaculation, the more your body tenses. So for you to ejaculate, there has to be tension. If there's no tension, you can't ejaculate, because ejaculation is the accumulation of tension in your perineum. And when you do deep breathing, like a 4-count inhale and a 4-count exhale, you are manually overriding your nervous system and controlling your respiration. You are controlling your pulse. So that's pretty much the very simple way that when you're controlling your breath, you're controlling everything.
Yeah, that sounds very, very easy.
Yeah, it is, but we forget to breathe because we're not used to it, and we have all this shallow breathing. And if you do singing, for example, like opera, and you have to really breathe deeply, getting that support is the same thing. And it's like I don't remember who said it, but life is something that happens between inhale and exhale. And there's a lot of truth in that it's the key to life. And it's also the key to great sex. Because when you're doing the inhale and exhalation properly, you're moving sexual energy out into your body, and it's like turning on a skyscraper. I like that metaphor, that the more energy you have, the more lights up you're going to get into the building, the more stories. And so the more you charge yourself up, the more people are going to notice you, the more people are going to feel you, because the human body is like an antenna, and this is overcharging, really charging up that antenna. And people, especially women, pick up on that. So I think it's, when it comes back to pornography, I think that's just a matter of choice. It's up to you if you want to have women or you want to have pornography in your life, and pornography can't even compare to women. And if I look at pornography now, and I remember 2 weeks ago with my girlfriend, after she went home, I had this massive urge for porn. And I sat down and I was just scrolling through for a little while, and opened a few videos, and I was looking at it, and in a way it's really disgusting, and there are scars everywhere, scars on the chest, and there are all this fakeness, and it was really disturbing in a way. And I was just thinking about my girlfriend. She's really beautiful, really hot. She has such an incredible body, and why the fuck would I look at porn on a computer instead of fantasizing about my girlfriend, for example, which is stunning? It makes no sense. So when something makes sense, now when something doesn't make sense, there's something for you to look at there. You're not seeing things clearly. And that's what happens when we go into these modes where when our sexual energy is out of balance, we are not thinking clearly. We are actually a bit like sexual predators. And the simplest way to do that is to start cultivating your sexual energy before you get hit by that wave. And that's how it pretty much have always felt for me, that at some point, if it's 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'm going to be hit by that massive wave of urges in a way. And if I don't do this, I'm going to be hit by that.
Yeah. Let me bring up a question which I get from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned your girlfriend, and some guys, they think you can only stop using porn if you have a girlfriend or if you have a sexual partner. What would you say?
Well, that makes sense if you're unaware that you can cultivate your sexual energy, because when we're walking around and we're having this itching feeling in our crotch, there's something to release, and we're always used to releasing. And when we have a girlfriend, we release with her or in her or on her. And it's the same thing. Pornography has nothing to do if you're single or if you're in a relationship. It's the same thing, comes back to cultivating your sexual energy. And one of the key parts of owning your own sexuality is to own your own ejaculation. And if you keep depleting yourself, that's what you're doing when ejaculating. You are reducing your own light, pretty much, if you're single or in a relationship. So it's when you are single that you should get to the point where you're able to stop with pornography, because if you don't, it's going to come up in a relationship. And when it's due, it's going to get a lot harder, because then you have to explain it to someone.
Yeah, exactly. And also, what I find, there are also a lot of guys who are in relationship and still watch porn, even to the point that they prefer the porn to the girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, for example, there's a video of Terry Crews who talks about this, how it almost broke up his marriage because of his porn addiction.
Yeah.
And so for me, there's not the problem of girlfriend or no girlfriend. There's the problem of pornography.
Yeah.
And the misunderstanding that is there.
Mm. Well, when I had that urge of pornography, I said to my girlfriend, I need to talk to you about something. And we got on Skype, and I told her. Simple as that. And that's so good. It's incredible, because when you open up about the things you're ashamed about, or the things that you're not comfortable about with the person that means the most to you, it takes away some of that tension that you've been feeling. And it's about being honest with yourself too. and it's taking that hard look at yourself, and is this really what you want to do? And those that are looking at pornography in a relationship, they are quite a distance down the rabbit hole. And my opinion is that it's not going to be the most comfortable thing, but to talk about that with your partner. And there's even things like you have Covenant Eyes, for example, that is like this blocker on your computer. And if you go onto certain material, you can have a third person to receive status updates of what you've been looking at. So if you're going to a porn site, that's going to be on the log, that you tried looking at porn. And that's actually I think that's a good solution if you're if you're too far into it, because it's going to be so uncomfortable that when someone sees what you've been trying to Google or, yeah.
I will ask you for a link later, and we will post this under the video. It sounds like a really, really great idea, because then you have some explaining to do.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's about helping yourself, and because when you're starting with this, all these urges are going to be hitting you quite often, and if you don't have access, it's just a lot easier. Of course, it is always possible to find some sort of dirty stuff, but it makes it much easier to do it less.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let me maybe ask a question there. I had a guy who said, where is the line to pornography? Like, you walk down the street and there's all these advertisements, and maybe in the summer there are all girls like being really open, and so he thinks he gets this constant stimulation, and so where's the line to pornography?
Well, today's society has become so sexually tainted in a way. Everything is sexualized. If you look at music videos, it's sexualized. If you look at magazines, it's sexualized. Everything is sexualized in a way, and women are being taught that that's how they're supposed to be too, to a very big degree. And it's very, very shame. It's a big shame. But where the line is, it's a good question, but I don't think it's a really. I think it's more important what you feel about it. If it's something, for example, so many guys, when I look at a hot woman walking down the street, to see her, and they feel this sexual energy in their cock, and then I go home and jerk off. Or they see this hot woman and then go home and jerk off to porn instead. And when they do that, you're disconnecting yourself from her beauty too, and you weren't really able to connect with that beauty or appreciate that beauty, because it's been something that you're using to get yourself off. So I think it comes back to intention again. Because when you're in a clear state of mind, you're just going to be aware, and it's not going to be like that you are going to be drawn to every half-naked woman, or even if you see a dirty poster or anything like that. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work like that. So the point is, the more clear your mind is, the easier these things, you're not going to notice these things, because it's not going to attract you anymore. Did that answer your question?
For me, it did, and I hope for the guy, and I hope he will be watching this. I hope he gets something out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned something very interesting, like you see a woman and you get this sensation, and there's something you want to explore with this woman. And I had a question of another guy who said, like, he mostly says it's because of porn. He is like really, really afraid to approach a woman or to show a woman his interest. Even he's really afraid to talk to women.
So pornography, in a way, is rewiring a brain. It's rewiring expectations, and it's both expectations to yourself and also to the woman. So in a way, you're doing yourself great disservice by looking at pornography. Especially, of course, you can look at pornography in a healthy way, but if you start cultivating your sexual energy, it doesn't make sense anymore. If you get to a deeper part of your sexuality, it makes no sense anymore. And when we're afraid of talking to a woman, it doesn't mean that it's true. And Arthur knows this. And just because we have a feeling doesn't mean that it's true. And we can see that in our relationships. We can see that in so many different areas, that we have this feeling that something is wrong or something is not the way it's supposed to be. And it turns out it wasn't true. From the men that I've worked with, the ones that watches the most porn are also the ones that are the most afraid of women. And I can see where they're coming from, and I think it was almost like that fear of women were driving them to porn, because that was the easiest way, and that was the easiest way for me too for a long time. That after a relationship that was kind of traumatic for me, pornography was the easiest way. It was by far the easiest way, and you have it always available and always accessible. But normal women aren't that. You can't have them at a moment's notice, or you can't have them in all different sizes and shapes. So I think that is for him, it's important to realize and go into himself and start exploring what's true for him. And I think the principles that you've probably mentioned, the 3 principles, I think that's such an incredible, powerful way of exploring this, because it has such a huge impact on how we feel and experience life. And have you explained this, or should I quickly go through it?
Yeah, I would say do that.
Okay. Our feelings and our thoughts are 100% connected, always, all the time. And our feelings are just a barometer that's telling us what we're thinking in a moment. So when he's feeling afraid of talking to women, he's not actually afraid of talking to women. He thinks he is. And what I'm pointing to there is it's a subtle but important difference that for example, if you go if you go to look at cars, and you bring your best buddy, and you think the car is super awesome, and your friend is like, meh. So how can we have 2 different people have 2 different thoughts about the same thing? So that shows us that it's not what's going on that's determining how we feel, but it is what we're thinking about it. And when we have fearful thinking about women, that just means that we have a misunderstanding about women, that there's something they can do to hurt us, or they can determine how we feel, but it doesn't work that way. Because the truth is that there is nothing outside of us. There's nothing or no one that determines how we feel. It's only us, and it only comes from our thinking. And the big breakthrough with this is that when you realize you're having fearful thinking about women or what they can do, you can take that moment to notice and realize that it's actually not true. It might seem true, it might feel true, but it doesn't have to be. And that every time you start to catch that insight, it gives you a bit more freedom, a bit more openness to whatever is able to unfold in that moment. And if you think about how to explain this, in a way, you are what you think, because when you're so caught up in your thinking about being afraid of women or being afraid of women, you're going to be afraid of women. But when you take that moment to realize that it's not true, you create this little space or this space, and when you have that space, you give room to something else. It opens up for something else to come into the picture, and that picture and that space gives space for who you really are. And if you are having angry thoughts, you're going to be angry. If you're having upset thoughts, you're going to be upset. That's how it is. So every time we do that and we start to notice, I'm feeling something, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling upset now, that opens up something in you. And when we have that openness, that space, something else can emerge. And that's also the difference between when you're trying to force things to happen instead of things to allow to happen. When you're using force, you're not coming from a good place. But when you allow things to unfold naturally, it's an entirely different experience and energy behind it. So I would absolutely encourage you to start looking into the principles, every single guy of you, every single one of you. And it's so impactful because it takes away so much misunderstanding. It takes away so much misery. And I had that massive insight in November, and Arthur was there too. And the truth is that we are creating our own misery. There's no one else who's doing that. It's just us. And the moment you realize that, you're taking away so much stuff. And my insight in November was that I had been creating my own misery in all areas of life, whether it's sex, or it's my career, or it's relationships, or it's the past relationship that I mentioned. And I even realized that I was creating the broken heart that I was carrying around. And when you have those kind of insights, you just let go of so much thought, then you create even more space for who you are, who you really are, to emerge. And from nature, we are happy, we are confident, we are sexual, we are playful, we are everything we need to be. And getting there is through letting go the things that we have believed to be true about ourselves.
Yeah, I absolutely second that. I also encourage you guys to check out the 3 principles. And it's kind of a shame to bring it back to pornography and the questions I have, because this is a really, really beautiful conversation. But maybe we can relate the questions back to that. For example, I had another question of, what can I do if the pictures are really burnt in? He said it makes for him no difference if he masturbates to porn or without porn, because he just keeps repeating the pictures, the videos.
Well, that says a lot about how ingrained the pictures are in his head. And if he keeps feeding the pictures, they're gonna stay that strong. So the simple answer is stop feeding the dragon or the beast. And our brain is able to rewire itself and reprogram itself. And the same with habits or whatever it is. So when we stop doing things, the neural connections in our brain start to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And at some point, we're going to forget. And that's a very simple answer to that question, that the more you keep reinforcing something, the longer it's going to get stuck in your head.
Yeah, so basically give it a chance and give it some time.
Yeah. It's much better to masturbate to your imagination than to something outside of you. It's a step on a path, but where you really want to go is to be able to cultivate yourself by feeling what's going on in your body. And that's when you are masturbating to what's going on in your head, you're doing exactly that. You're having sex with something in your mind. But when you are cultivating yourself and you're feeling what's going on with your body, you're actually making love to yourself. You're having sex with yourself. And just like Woody Allen says, what is that again? About his hand. I can't remember. Such a brilliant quote. Don't knock masturbation. It's having sex with someone I love or something like that. I can't remember, but it's such a brilliant quote. Google that. Woody Allen masturbation quote or something.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, all right. I got only one question left. And this is, I don't know, it's not formed as a question. It's just noticing that pornography is so casual. Like you said, you're surfing the internet for 3 weeks, no problem. And then suddenly you're 15 minutes browsing porn sites.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah.
So is there something to do there? Is there something to watch out for?
From my experience when I was working on letting go is that I start noticing the cues a couple of days before that happens. And if you keep going into those cues, it's like you're teasing yourself a bit more deeper back into it. And then suddenly you're getting caught by that wave. So I would say that you know several days before if this is going to happen or not. And then it's a really good time to start doing some cultivation of your sexual energy. I think it's something also that's important, that if you do have accidents and you look at porn, don't beat yourself up, because beating yourself up is just going to make things worse for you. So being okay with yourself and thinking, okay, I'll watch porn, that's fine. And don't beating yourself up is going to make it so much easier for you to let go of it, because then you start taking out the self-beating, the self-shame. And it's about being your best friend again.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And maybe if we can talk about the transition from pornography, and I hope there was a lot of input for you guys out there. So the very basic step is to start to get awareness, to start to not focus, but be aware of your breathing, right? And what else is there to explore? How do I transition from maybe a not so good sexuality to a really healthy sexuality?
I think one of the most important things is to start realizing what's actually possible. And most guys just think that they can have one orgasm, that's ejaculation. But we guys, we can have 3 orgasms. That's ejaculation. You have full body orgasm, and then you have the prostate orgasm. Women, they can have 14 different orgasms depending on how you differentiate them. And a full body orgasm can last for an hour, and you can have that together with your partner at the same time. And when you start exploring this reality, this new reality, what's actually possible, it gives you a bit more motivation to go there, because you can't really go to the top of your own sexuality if you're holding yourself down by squandering all your sexual energy. So I would start with the Multiorgasmic Man book, because it gives you pretty much everything you need to get to being multiorgasmic in a week or 2 if you want to. That's very much possible. And that was what really helped me, was that I was starting to get these experiences of what's possible, and then I wanted to get more and more of that, and that makes it easier not to fall back again, because you already gone some distance. And also about not beating yourself up, like I said, and there's no harm in taking 1 step back or even 2. It doesn't kill you if you watch porn once or twice or 3 times. It doesn't kill you. But it's all about becoming aware, like you said, and start being your best friend and starting to look into why I'm actually doing this. And I saw a pattern in me that it was usually when I was either lonely, stressed, tired, frustrated, that's when, or bored, that when I was in those feelings or states, I was easily getting drawn into porn. And it all comes back to awareness again. It always comes back to awareness. And think for yourself, what do you want to have in your life? Do you want to have mind-blowing sex, or do you want to sit with your dick in your hand in your room? When you think about it that way, it doesn't really sound tempting anymore. It's so much more fun to be able to have sex for hours, so you can make a woman squirt, or you can give her the womb orgasm, so she almost looks like she's passing out for a while, or it's so much more fun. But you're not going to have that great sex unless you start doing great things for yourself, and that is cultivating your sexual energy. And that's when you're going to meet great women too. We always meet people that are on our same level. We're always going to attract the same, or in quantum physics they call it vibrational frequency. And when we cultivate our sexual energy and we let go of our sexual traumas almost, our vibration increases, our light increases, or we start attracting new women into our life. And it takes a lot off your shoulders when you know that you have what it takes to give a woman what she wants, even if you're meeting her in the bar or you have a girlfriend. There's so much to it that you're actually able, that you know on a deeper level, that you're able to control your stamina, you're able to control your ejaculation, and you know how to do all these things to give her incredible pleasure and yourself. And that's pretty much the most important thing, is to start really going in that direction, really opening up your eyes to what's possible and educating yourself, and also starting to get more in contact with your spiritual self, I would say.
Yeah, wow. That sounds really, really great, and I certainly know what I prefer.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys out there do too. So if there's, do you have anything to say? Because I feel like this is a good place to end this. It's already about 50 minutes.
Wow. I think it's take a moment for yourself and pause and just examine yourself. What do you want? And be honest with yourself. And I've had many times I've cried because I've had insights about porn and what I've been doing to myself. And it's not good. It's not fun. But it's always possible to get out of it. And it's not the end of the world if you burst a bubble. But the point is to start moving into something more healthy and something that gives you love. Pornography doesn't give you love. And nothing can beat a beautiful woman that's madly in love with you and wants to have sex with you. Nothing beats that. Nothing. And that's also the greatest gift we as men can receive in life. That a woman wants to spend her life with us, spend her time, because she can choose anyone she wants. And for example, my girlfriend, she can get guys that are endlessly more attractive than me, or physically more attractive, or much more rich, or even filter rich guys. She's gorgeous. She can pick anyone she wants, and still if she's with me. And that's such a huge compliment. And I think we forget to acknowledge that women have endlessly more options than us. And the best thing we can do is to be our best. And if we own our sexuality, if we own our sex, that takes you ahead of everyone. Because most guys are not.
Yeah, very cool. So if guys want to contact you or get to know more about you, how do they find you, or how do they contact you?
Oh, Facebook is good, or email, but Facebook is great. I like to see who am I talking to too.
All right, cool. So thank you very, very much. It was like a really, really great exploration, and I hope the guys can get something out of it.
You're welcome. And I hope so too. And don't be afraid to ask any questions, or if there's a lot of questions, we can do a follow-up video. That's no problem.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Sounds good. Okay.
Yeah.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.